Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Greco. Welcome to Worldview. For the next 30 minutes, we'll be talking about things that are happening in the world that the press is just not covering it as much as possibly they should. Instead, they're covering local stories or different stories, things about maybe an disbarred lawyer being convicted of murdering his wife and son seems to be more important than some of the things that go on in the go on in the world. So this is what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover Angola. It's a country in Africa, right? I mean, we've heard about Angola. Maybe especially those individuals that we talk about different aspects. We talk about who we are and what we are, and these are the things that we need to take a look at. But the main thing is that more and more countries in Africa are basically, and I don't mean to use the word derogatorily or with a derogatory bent or whatever else, but colonial powers are starting to try to reclaim the colonial past in some of these African countries. And they're doing that by going in and messing with their infrastructure. And this is something that is just, I mean, China is doing it. France is definitely doing it. And the reason is because France needs oil. And I'll explain a little bit about why France is doing what they're doing. But basically, I want to make sure and get back to what we're talking about from the standpoint of Angola. So let's talk about where Angola is first, because I think that's important. So Angola is over, if this were Africa, which of course it is, we're talking about an area right here. So it's in the southwest portion of of Africa. Africa is a huge continent, huge. It's the largest continent in the world. Makes up 7 or 8 different types of time zones. It's goes all the way from the Horn of Africa all the way over to the western part of the coast. I mean, you have here basically the Indian Ocean, and you have the Atlantic Ocean here. So I mean, it makes up an immense amount of land area. And the thing about Africa, and the thing that's important about Africa, is the fact that Africa has probably the most um, raw materials of any other continent. I mean, we're talking about uranium, gold, zinc, molybdenum, cadmium, I mean, all kind of different things that they have there. Madagascar, which is just off the coast here, 99%, 99% or 90%, I think it was something like that. Madagascar, there are flora and fauna there that is basically cannot be duplicated anywhere else in the world. So this is, I mean, this is an area that is very rich in resources. And because of that, there's a lot of things that people want to do with this area. And one is that because of the Ukrainian war, Russia has basically limited their amount of oil. And because of that, you have Europe up here that's basically going to be oil starved. So what they need to do is they need to get oil. Now, this country here, right here, France, and I'm going to go into this a little bit later. And this is an opinion, basically an opinion. It's an informed opinion, but it's an opinion nonetheless. Is that France has always wanted to be the head, the big cheese of Europe, of continental Europe. They've always wanted to basically be the country that everybody goes to. For whatever reason, France has always wanted to be the big power here. And they've always kind of had to take second fiddle to places like Germany, when Germany has an immense amount of industrial area, right? And France doesn't like that. And there's been some tension between Germany and France. But basically what's happening is France is going out to different areas. They're going to Mali. They're going to Algeria. They're going to different countries that were originally their colonial. It was their colonies. And they're going back and they're trying to get a foothold in that. Again, economic agreements and things like that. And this is what Angola is all about. Angola has rich natural resources. And France wants that. They want to own as many natural resources, raw materials as possible, because I think, and this is again my opinion, is, and I have a book, and I'm writing on France. Why should we trust France? It's interesting, but I think basically what's happening is that they're trying to get a lot of ownership or part ownership of these resources, so then they can prove themselves to be the linchpin of the entire European continent here. So they want to be the big one. There's Spain next door. Spain's having some economic problems. Portugal's having some economic problems. Italy's having some economic problems. Greece having some economic problems, and then you have the war in Ukraine, which is right over here. So I mean, there's a lot of issues having to do with France, and France wants to be in the middle of this whole thing. They want to be known as the country where peace treaties are signed, where things are done, where we're going to take care of Europe. We're going to do that. I mean, why do you think most treaties are signed in Paris? Why? I don't understand that, but they are. You know, French think of themselves as this big, gigantic diplomatic country. That they want peace at all costs. They want peace as long as it benefits France. This peace at all costs things is something that is very, very interesting. If you take a look at even all the way back to the French, all the way back to the American Revolution, why did France join us? Well, France joined us for a couple of reasons, but the main reason is because they didn't like Britain. They were hoping that the Americans could keep Britain bottled up. Also, Louisiana Purchase. Louisiana Purchase was basically to fund Napoleon's army. It wasn't to give America land. It was to fund his army. So I mean, things like this, based on historical fact, is something that we have to take a look at from that standpoint. So let's take a look at Angola, and let's take a look at what's going on there. So, and this is the U.S. is falling behind. The U.S. is falling behind here, folks. They're taking their good old time with Africa. And like I've said in the past, I'll say it again. Africa Command is located in Germany. Why is the command that has a military jurisdiction, U.S. military jurisdiction over the continent of Africa based in Germany? It's because they don't want to go to Africa. And people sit back and they go, oh, no, it's because we don't have any bases. We have bases in Africa, folks. We have we have bases in Africa. Why don't they move there? Why don't they? Because they don't want to. Why would you? The idea is that they want to stay in Germany because that's the center of the center of EUCOM. European Command is there. USAFE is there. United States Air Force is Europe. USAREUR is there. Army Europe. All these different components of the military is there in Germany. So why would they want to go to Africa? So so that's where I'm coming from that standpoint. So let's do a quick summary of Angola. 36 million people. We have 330 million people. 3 major ethnic groups. 11 languages with Portuguese as the official. Now, why is Portuguese the official language of Angola? It's because it was originally a Portuguese colony. And then they got their independence. There's 2 major religions: Catholic 41%, Protestant, and then one other religion. 47% of the population is under 14 years old. 47%. That's almost half of the population. 18 million people are under 14 years old. Think about that for just one split second, and how that will determine what's going on in that country. I mean, you got 15, 16-year-olds, right? I mean, that basically are not part of that 47%. So this is interesting. Median age is almost 16 years old. Median, it's not mean age, folks. It's median age, which means it's more of a robust statistical measure than mean is. There's 2 doctors per 10,000 population. The reason I said that is because there's 0.2 for every 1,000 people. 0.2, that's a fifth of a doctor for every 1,000 people. It's kind of sad when you think about it. Major diseases: bacterial diarrhea, Hep A, typhoid, dengue fever, malaria, rabies, and schistosomiasis, which is a waterborne disease. And it occurs in many countries in Africa, many countries. Soil erosion, deforestation, lack of potable water are all environmental issues and all part of those issues that we talk about. Real GDP per capita in Angola, $5,900, which means that every person basically, if you're talking about gross domestic product, could get $5,900. To give you an idea, in the United States, it's somewhere around 60,000. So $60,000. So it's a heck of a difference when we're talking about that. Exports: oil, diamond, natural gas, refined oil ships to China, India, UAE, Portugal, and Spain. Import refined oil, scrap vessels, meat, rice, um, palm oil from China, from Portugal, Nigeria, Belgium, U.S. We do have some things we ship to Angola, South Africa, and Brazil. 28% of the electricity is fossil fuel. So here we have an exporting country of oil, but they only use 28% of it for electricity, 70% hydroelectricity. They produce over 1 million barrels per day of oil and almost 7 billion cubic meters of natural gas. They export about 6 billion cubic meters of natural gas. This is Angola, folks. It's used as a transient point for cocaine. It's a drug transient country to Western Europe and South Africa. So I mean that's it. This is the way it looks. Big country for 36 million folks. I mean this is what they have. Look at this. I mean it goes all the way from almost where is that? That's around Buffalo area, all the way down to Savannah, Georgia. Out to the Atlantic here, all the way to Chicago in that area. So big country. It's a big country. We'll measure it here in a second. Why this country, right? Well, first of all, it's a former Portuguese colony, right? So the Portuguese don't, they Angola really doesn't want anything to do with them. So the French want to increase relations because of oil production. Now they are saying that they're going to do some economic aspects here, having to do with building their arable land, farm economic, all that stuff. So what difference is that than China going in and saying they want to give them cell phones? I mean, the bottom line is it's all has to do with infrastructure, and the infrastructure aspect is what the Africans are trying to get. They're trying to understand infrastructure so that they can be independent. But then what happens is once a foreign country goes in there and starts to put things in place, then all of a sudden they kind of own that country in the infrastructure, and that's what the French. Yeah, that's what French are doing. Chinese are doing. I'm sure the U.S. is doing it somewhere along the line there. Maybe I'll bring up some examples. But I mean, basically, that's what's going on there. They just signed an economic agreement with Angola, right? As part of what they call an African national tour. So Macron has gone down there. The president of France has gone down there, and he's been, hooping it up with, Mali and Algeria and some of the other former French colonies, which want kind of nothing to do with France. So he's going down there and he's trying to mend fences there, and then he's trying to grow the French. I'm going to say it, the French colonial aspect. They're trying to get down there and build relationships with these countries. But basically, really, what are they doing, right? France has some trouble with former French colonies. Mali, they were giving them all kind of military aid. This is again a pattern with France. Military aid out, the wazoo. They give them all kind of aid, all kind of things, and then all of a sudden they have a coup in the country. So then France pulls their people out because they got to have democratically elected people and all that stuff. So they're having a problem with that. So that's who that. I give the New York Times reference there, so you guys take a look at it. Former France former colony Nigeria is now trading with China as a primary trading partner. They kind of, hey, yeah, France, thanks a lot for coming down and trying to mend fences. And again, a lot of oil there, a lot of oil in Algeria. Algerian oil fields, pretty rich, right? France needs allies in Africa, right? They need to continue the raw materials, the resources, all these things they need to be able to keep growing, to keep understanding. And I get it. But I wish the French would just admit to nationalism, because that's what they do. They're very nationalistic. It's all about France. In France, it's all about France. If they do something, it's about France. They sit there and they talk about all these other countries and how they care about that and everything else. I'm telling you from history and from research that the French care about the French. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Just say it. Just say it. Say that, hey, look, France is primary. France, we're going to do stuff for France. We're going to do stuff for our nationalism. Instead of putting on this air of, oh, it's all about peace and it's all about we want people to get along and all that. I'm sorry, but and again, this is very, very opinionated on my part. This is my opinion, my sole opinion. Nothing, if people sit there and say, gee, I love the French, good for you. That's your opinion, and I respect that opinion. Please respect mine. So, and I do this only because I have had actual personal experience with French and French military, and I do not find them to be wholly trustworthy. Let me throw that out. And unfortunately, I cannot give you um, specifics on that because it was during a time when there were some intelligence aspects and everything else. I can't really go into that, but I'm telling you, I was there, and I'd be more than happy to testify in a skiff. What is France's long-term plan? France has always wanted to be the main country in continental Europe. That's my opinion. Most major treaties are signed in France. This is a fact, and it's hilarious when you think about one of the major treaties that was signed in France was the Paris Climate Accords. The Climate Accords were signed in Paris. What is France doing right now? They're trying to get oil, folks. Oil. They're trying to burn fossil fuels. Just think about this for just 1 second. You have the Paris Climate Accords, which they signed on to in France, in Paris, yet they are out trying to get oil from Angola, trying to get oil from Uganda, and I'll go into that in a second. I mean, so you're talking about a country that sits back and says, yep, I signed the accords. There we go. And then they go out and they get oil. The U.S. is really trying, much as, I'd like to have my opinion on this, but basically, I feel that we're really trying to live by the Paris Climate Accords. France, I'm sorry, but France can sit back and they can say, yeah, hey, we have every intention. Yeah, something, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And the bottom line is that, you can have all the good intentions you want, but you're going out there and you're doing what we sit back and we go, well, we have to be careful about our domestic oil production. In the meantime, they're going to countries like Africa and they're getting oil. So it's just like, what is going on here? Is this some kind of weird Twilight Zone thing that we're in, or is this something that we need to really care about? And again, are we falling behind on this? So Germany is a major economic power in Europe. They are manufacturing, GDP, everything. They're in really good shape. But France needs resources to continue their striving for primary recognition. They established ties with Africa. Major source of oil, diamonds, gold, uranium, other materials. Name a material. Name any mineral you can think of. Bauxite, major mineral that's used in aluminum. I mean, it's in Africa. I mean, there's a lot of different things in Africa. Pyrite, which is fool's gold, but it's also used to harden different areas. Tungsten, all these things that's used there. So in essence, France is all about France. My opinion, and it's going to go on YouTube. This is going to go on Roku TVs, Pod TV, all that. Anybody wants to have a comment on that? Have at it. I'd be more than happy to hear any comments you have to have on, France as being the. I'll tell you what. Name one thing that France has done for the world ever. Just one thing France has done for the world ever. And I'll be more than happy to sit there and say, okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that situation. And you sit back and you go, well, what about all the French scientists? What about all the U.S. scientists? What about all the German scientists? What about Romanian scientists? What about all the different? Okay, fine. What else have they done? The bottom line is that when you take a look at these things, you take a look at like Madame Curie, right? French scientist, fantastic. Radiation aspects and all that. Did some really, really good work. And, so those are the things you have to take a look at. So in essence, France is all about France. And, you can go to France, have a good time there. I've been to France. I've been to Paris. I enjoyed it. It was nice. Up the Eiffel Tower. It was great. Champs-Élysées, all that stuff. Went to the Louvre. I did all that. It's good. It's a really, really rich country in history. But again, it's about France, right? By capturing the energy sector in Africa, they will have Europe at their beck and call. Europe will be coming to France to ask if they can get oil. France wants to have that position of power. They want to sit back and say, we own Europe because now we have all the energy that you could want. So, that's their long-term plan. What about other African countries? Okay, France is trying to build a pipeline and drilling between Uganda and Tanzania with China. They're partnering with folks. Listen to this. They're partnering with China. France's company called Total is going with China, and they're going to build this pipeline. So just to give you an idea of where this pipeline is, let me show you what this pipeline is going to do. So here's Uganda here. Now, where's this pipeline going to go? Well, basically, it goes from what they call the Albertine Rift Basin. This is Lake Albert. So right along this basin area, the basin actually goes all the way from Lake Albert all the way to Lake Tanganyika, which is way down south here. So, but Lake Albert's part of that. And this Albertine Rift is where they're going to drill. And they're going to pipeline this thing from Uganda, all the way from Uganda, all the way to a place called Tanga, which is a port in Tanzania. Okay. So they're going to go from here all the way to here. Now look what's in its way. Look what's in the pipeline's way. Lake Victoria. It's beautiful. Lake Victoria is gorgeous lake. You have Kampala and Tebi, all these different areas by Lake Victoria. So let's say, for instance, that we were going to we're just gonna do a roller here real quick. We're just gonna do a quick look at what this is gonna be. So let's say they come up here and they're gonna have a pipeline from here. They're gonna have to miss Lake Victoria. It's gonna be over here. And I mean, this is let's do a path here, just so I have it. So we're going to do a path. We're going to miss Lake Victoria. Going to have to go through some mountains here. Where's some mountains? And we're going to go to Tanga. Now, 748 nautical miles of pipeline going between here and here. Now, what are some of the things that have to be, because the oil coming out of this Albertine Rift is going to be so viscous, it's going to be it's going to be thick, basically what it is. They have to heat this pipeline going between point A and point B. China and France. We're talking about 10 billion bucks. 3.5 billion they're investing, and they're going to start this pipeline going through here. So who's fighting it? Who's fighting the pipeline? Well, the pipeline is being fought extensively by environmental activists, with NGOs, non-governmental organizations are saying, look, they're going to screw up an entire, ecosystem, with Lake Albert and the rest of that area. It's beautiful. It is a beautiful area, and they're going to mess that up. So they're saying the banks don't loan any money to these two companies, France and China, to be able to make that work. So I think that's just interesting. And also, I think I'm going to drive home again. This is against the Paris Climate Accords, folks. We're talking about getting away from fossil fuel. I hear it every day about getting away from fossil fuel. I hear it every day about getting rid of natural gas. I hear it every day. Here's the French. Who's holding this over the French and the Chinese? The Chinese are the number one CO2 polluter in the world. Yet they're getting more oil. They're getting more oil. So I don't understand. Are we doing anything about this? No. What's the State Department doing? No, they're going over and they're doing whatever, trying to figure out what's going on. Instead, here's a situation that could heavily affect two countries, Uganda and Tanzania. And if they have a spill, it screws up Lake Victoria, it screws up Lake Albert, it can ruin the entire Albertine Basin. But no, let's not worry about that. Let's get and these are the people, Paris Climate Accords, Paris Climate Accords. What are we doing? Why are we doing this? So I want you to watch for future developments as France tries to placate their own people while increasing their national wealth. Now, interestingly enough, the retirement question in France, they're having a heck of a time. They're having internal strife there because basically originally it was that they weren't going to mess with the retirement age. So everybody in France could retire with a pension at the age, I think it was like 62, but now they're going to raise it to 64. And now they're going nuts. They're going crazy about that. These are the same people that want a 4-day work week. Remember, now they're starting a 4-day work week here in the US. They're trying to figure that out. I mean, it's like, wow. So it's just one thing after another thing after another thing after another thing. And it'll be interesting to see. And I think by France getting oil and getting these types of things, it placates people. It sits back and says, oh, we're France and we have this, and we're France and we have that. And we're France and we have this. We don't have to worry about any of that. So I mean, it's interesting how that we still can we still think France is our ally, folks. I don't know when we're going to finally wake up and realize that the only reason that they're our ally is because they can get something from us. And it's interesting how they came, Macron came and talked to Biden and said that the Infrastructure Reduction Act is going to affect France and Europe. And I love the way he said that, France and Europe, because it affects all of Europe, not just France, but it does. It affects us. So that's why I'm here, basically talking about electric vehicles, and how they're, putting a tax on those from Europe and all that. And of course, President Biden placated the guy by saying, "Oh, we'll have to take a look at that and whatever else. We don't want to hurt our European allies." Really, it's great. So that's basically what's happening with that. And that is pretty much it. And the bottom line of this whole thing is to understand that this is Africa, folks. This is a huge continent. Lots and 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 lots of of different resources. One area, it was this place called Kauki in Central African Republic, CAR, where Wagner Group, which is basically a mercenary wing of Russian armed forces, is providing security for mining operations, but Russia is getting part of that mining resources. So this country is just it's being split into all kind of different uh, protectorates, whatever you want to call it, because there's so many resources there. But what is the individuals or the countries doing to help that country? What are they doing to help Uganda? Okay, yeah, they're giving them money, but and that's real nice. But where's the money going? Is the money going in the dictator's pockets? Is it going in the leader's pockets? Is it going to some Swiss bank account? Or is it actually going to help the people? I mean, again, I have personal experience with a country in Africa where basically money was going directly to the dictator. It's going directly to the leader, the president of the country. But it's not. People aren't. People are dying. They're dying of starvation. They're dying of, they're unemployed. They don't have a life. They don't have a future. But yet, we're getting, the country that's in there is getting the resources they need to be able to continue with their affluent society. So that's what I want to talk about today. And I realize there's a lot of opinion here, and I want to say it again. And I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but the bottom line is this: is that there's a lot of countries out there besides France, but France is one of them, that are trying to go in and basically drain the country of its natural resources, and then basically leaving it a dying hulk while they go out and they try to find some other country that has those resources. Um, remember when the drilling, and any type of drilling done right can cause some economic disasters, and they're about to do it in an area that is just a natural beauty area and provides water and other resources to different countries. So that whole basin there. So that pretty much does it for me today. I just wanted to bring up these areas with the definitely with Africa and how those things are happening, and different parts of the story that you're not hearing. Yeah, I put some resources in there. Please go take a look at it, and you make your decision as to how you want to think on this thing, on the worldview. So for the worldview, this is Chris Greco. Thank you so much for listening, and please, always try to go out and take a look at France 24, take a look at Al Jazeera, take a look at news areas, Haystack News, great free resource, lots and lots and lots of international news. That's where you want to go. That's what you want to see. See what's happening in the world, because happening in the world, that's what's going to affect us in the long run. So, if the more that you have in the worldview, the more you understand how we interact with the world. Until next time, this is Chris Greco saying, thank you for watching The Worldview.